Bitcoin represents, I said it was rooted in an ideology, right? It's an asset on a network, how do I say it? It's an asset on a network based on a protocol rooted in an ideology. And the ideology is a choice of natural law versus human law. We prefer natural law over human law. We prefer physical sciences over computer sciences, and a choice to favor the universe over the metaverse. It's like Elon Musk joked, he said, the laws of physics, are non-negotiable, right? Whereas the laws of man are suggestions. And Bitcoin is really that submission to natural law. There's a humility to it. And if we look at Austrian economics, if we look at capitalism, if we look at liberty and freedom and most of the more positive ideologies in the world, they're all rooted in natural law and natural rights. And when you start to try to superimpose artificiality or artificial edicts, it's like humans will come up with 100,000 laws that say you can't bake bread and you have to go to sleep at a certain time and, you can't think this and you can't say that. And these things get taken to the extreme, and what they do is they destroy the society. It's just too artificial. And computer science, one of the things about Bitcoin is it's not a big code base, right? Satoshi didn't set out to impress people by writing as much code as possible. The whole idea was to make it the minimum amount of code. I mean, the real goal of great design, right, is the least. Do you see that little video that circulates on YouTube where it shows the guy with the tin can and has got 6 different templates, and he's got 8 different types of blocks, and he's got a triangle block, and he shows it goes into the square hole, and he's got a circular block and it goes in the square hole, and he's got a rectangular block that goes in the square hole. And what he shows is people oftentimes they overthink and they overdesign. I want to create 8 different ways to do 8 different things, when in fact I can do everything one way. And great designers, they don't come up with 187 buttons. This has got a lot of buttons on it, but the iPhone doesn't have but 1 button or 0 buttons, right? It's like the ideal interface is simple. And so in computer science, when you code all this stuff, you need millions and millions of lines of code to simulate. Think about how many lines of code you need to simulate the way water flows down a hill. I give you a simple hill, I drop a pot of water, I write a computer software, and it's like you're going to write so much software to simulate that. Well, how much code does nature need to make the water flow the right way? Just the water just goes, right? It's not hard for nature to do these things. So what you want is something simple and elegant and subject to natural laws. The conservation of energy, right? There is a speed of light. There is a speed of sound, right? There are the laws of gravitation, right? There is conservation of energy. You can't destroy matter. You can convert matter to energy to matter. You can convert energy from light to heat, to acoustic energy, to kinetic energy. But at the end of the day, the energy is conservative. It's there. And so the philosophy of Bitcoin is rooted in physics, and it's rooted in engineering, and it's rooted in a humble submission to nature. And that is the same as the market logic of Austrian economics. It's like, let the market decide. Let the people do what they're going to do. Don't attempt to tell everyone in the universe how to behave, right? Leave them alone. So I say, leave Bitcoin alone. It's a living, organic life form. Just leave it alone, right? You happen to think that the world could benefit from X. Do it yourself on your own application. Risk your own capital. If you want to introduce a protocol and give it to the world, that's fine. You can introduce any number of open protocols. Linux is open protocol. HTTP is open protocol. You can have your own Lightning protocol, create a competing Lightning protocol. You can do all those things, but ultimately respect nature, right? And respect the fact that Satoshi managed to engineer this genetic life form. Satoshi created a crypto life form, released it into cyberspace, and it lived. And everybody before created something and it died. And so after hundreds and hundreds of experiments, they all died, and millions of things that died after it. Here's the one thing that lived, and we should be in awe that that thing lived. And we should, our job is to help people adopt it, help it grow and succeed. But you're about as likely to improve the genetic code of Bitcoin as you are to improve the genetic code of a cockroach or a virus or a rabbit. It's leave the things and let them reach their full potential, because Bitcoin's 850 billion right now. There's no reason why we can't reach hundreds of trillions of dollars of an economy without changing, any of the fundamental genetic protocols materially. They're pretty good, and they seem to work fine. So I think bottom line with the philosophy is, the lesson of Stoicism is just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should do a thing. And go forward with humility and grace. And when you've won the lottery, have the wisdom to know that you've won the lottery, and don't gamble it all, double or nothing 10 more times and lose it all. William the Conqueror won the lottery. He was a bastard orphan, and and everybody wanted to kill him, and he managed to rise up and become the Duke of Normandy. And then he managed to get the perfect wife and 4 sons, and that's everything. He then proceeded to cross the English Channel, conquer the UK. His family fell apart. The nation fell into civil war, and he died fighting with his own son. And after he was dead, his sons fought with each other. And that's an example of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Napoleon did the same thing. Julius Caesar did the same thing. Alexander the Great did the same thing. The world's just full of these people that, you're the king of the entire nation, and everybody's happy and at peace with each other, and they got to go and mess it up, right? Somehow. And so Bitcoin it's the winner, and it's working out well, and it's growing 45% a year, and there's a million things that will grow from it. I think we're just so fortunate to have this as an opportunity. I would focus upon the 99% of the people that don't fully understand it. I would educate them, and I'd help them on board. And I wouldn't spend a lot of time infighting over whether or not, you're allowed to own an ETF versus self-custody versus have Bitcoin with Fidelity versus do business with a corporation. It's these are all second-order things. And 100 years from now, we'll still be disagreeing about politics, and we'll still be disagreeing about, custody relationships, and we'll disagree about a lot of nuances. The real question is, does Bitcoin grow 40% a year or 20% a year or 10% a year or 5% a year? And I think we're just better off this is why I say put the laser eyes on. The significance of laser eyes is you've got the single most important thing you could do with your life that can make humanity better. And you're not going to solve every problem of humanity, but you could solve half of them, or you could provide a solution to everybody that makes their life better. So focus upon the thing that you can save. Focus upon the benefit you can bring to the world. Don't let yourself get drawn into 100 side struggles and, regional wars over things that people have been fighting over for hundreds of years, and they'll be fighting about for another 100 years, because it's we didn't end political struggle after electricity, but we sure did make life a lot better for humans, right? We didn't end religious struggle, but, 2 out of every 5, children died in childbirth, in 1600. And, a combination of good medical technology and electricity and light, change that number from 40% infant mortality to less than 1% infant mortality, some very, very low number. So I think we focus upon spreading the good cheer of technology, better living through Bitcoin, and everything else is like I used to joke. It's like all my good ideas were dilutive distractions. I will say this, like Bitcoin's my best idea. And the only reason I was able to do anything with Bitcoin is I had a few other good ideas. But ultimately, I never pursued a bad idea, Stephan. I never pursued a bad one. I pursued good ideas that I thought were great, but they ended up being distractions and dilutive to my success at the great idea. And so I think that's how I would end this thing. Do the right thing for Bitcoin.